Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to a new episode of the Tabletop Engineer. I recently received an email from a potential patron of the Tabletop Engineer asking me what I meant when I said that there would be some advanced crafting projects over at the new Patreon page. It's patreon.com/the Tabletop Engineer. It's $1 a month for patrons to come there and get patron exclusive content. I'm releasing a lot of videos, PDF resources, live chats, live crafting sessions that you can participate in. I get the question. I really do. So it occurred to me that probably what I should do is share what a patron-only video is going to be like. I've already done one, which was the Dwarven Fortress. You can look back a couple weeks and you'll find a video that is part one of an ongoing series where I'm developing this dwarf fortress piece of terrain. Well, I have since also started another project. I'm building another spaceship. If you remember the Thunderhawk, the big spaceship that I designed about a month or so ago, that was really fun. And I've been wanting to do another spaceship, but something not based on an existing property. I wanted to do something unique. So that is what I have done. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to share with you that video. It's like over 40 minutes. Normally it would be a patron exclusive video, but I want to give you an idea of what I mean when I talk about advanced crafting videos. So take a look at this. It's going to be an ongoing project. I don't know how many parts. When it's done, I'll do another one. I also am taking suggestions from my patrons, and we'll be doing some live discussions about some of these advanced projects. So enjoy the video, and if you like what you see and you want to see more of this particular project, please consider supporting me as a patron. All right, let's get to it. Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to part one of a new type of video series that I'm going to be trying out here for my patrons. If you are a follower of mine over on YouTube, the Tabletop Engineer YouTube channel, you know that when I typically release a video, it is sort of edited. You don't see the mistakes I make. You don't see the times when I step away from the table, but the camera is still running. They're edited in such a way that the viewer gets a start to finish video of how to make a project. Now, most of those videos are only one part. They're a single video, start to finish. But some videos are multi-part. For example, recently I did this. This is the Warhammer 40K Thunderhawk. I recreated it in chipboard, and there's some foam inside, and there's a couple 3D printed elements. But this was really fun to make. But there was no way I could have done this in 1 or 2 sessions to make just 1 or 2 videos. This actually turned out to be a 4-part video series, which, again, I enjoyed. And I edited it very well, or at least I think I did. You did not see probably half of the stuff that went into this because it was, trial and error type stuff or gluing something on and finding out it was a mistake. But overall, I was quite pleased with the spaceship, pleased enough that I want to do another one. So I started thinking that I want to show viewers everything, or as much as I can, with very little editing. So I am going to be doing this video series. Again, it will be multi-parts. It is not live. Like I will be doing live crafting videos, but not for this particular project. This one will be done when I have spare time. I'll be working on it, and then I'll be uploading video as I get enough video to share with you. You won't be able to chat with me like you do in the live craft videos, but these videos will be longer by nature because I'm going to do very little editing to them. Now, there will be some editing. There will be transitions from scene to scene. If I'm working on, say, the back and now I switch to the front, I probably will edit out 2 or 3 minutes of me diving around in my workshop looking for something. There are things that I don't feel need to be in the video, but there will be those moments where I make a mistake, or I have an aha moment, or I try something that either works or doesn't work, and maybe I pull it off. Those kind of things will stay in there. So these videos will be longer. No apologies there. They will be longer. But hopefully you will be able to watch them and follow along with me as I develop a new spaceship. I want something that is not based on an existing property. I want something that is unique, that is coming out of my head, and that I'm going to develop. It will be to the same scale as this. It will be a larger ship, because I want it to be something that I could use in a sci-fi RPG, or maybe on a science fiction skirmish war game or a war game. So I want it to be easily recognizable as a sci-fi element. So for you who are watching, welcome to this new type of series. I would love to hear your feedback on this. If you think it's going too slow and you have suggestions for how I can improve it, please let me know. But I'm just going to point the camera at the work table, and I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to let you follow along and hear and see the things I'm doing as I take a new project from start to finish. Let's get to the tabletop and let's get going. Before I get started on actually cutting or measuring anything, I'm going to use some graph paper here to sort of come up with the basic shape of what I want. I had this image in my mind of this squat, sort of wide ship that has its engines on the left and right, with gaps between the engines and, say, the cargo or the place where the pilots and passengers would be. This is going to be a larger piece, and so the chipboard I have is 12 inch by 12 inch. So what I'm going to start here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually draw out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to draw two pieces of chipboard, and at least the dimensions of them. This will help me sort of gauge the size that I need for the sketch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 by 12. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, here's another one. All right, so the reason I'm doing this, like I said, is this will be 2 sheets of chipboard for the length of the ship. I may find that I want it wider than 12 inches. I think 12 inches is pretty wide. Here's a piece of chipboard. You know, a ship that's wider than that, no, I think 12 inches will be fine. So, but I am going to push it to the edges. So what I'm going to do here is I want the ship to be mostly the main body, and then maybe a cockpit area or the front area that looks like it could either separate or at least pull away from the main body if, like, the ship were going to explode or something like that. So what I'm thinking is, you know, like this, sort of a bigger part of the ship and then a smaller part. Just a standard science fiction trope. But what I'm talking about is gaps here between, say, the engine part and the main body part here. So these would be visual elements that would contain nothing. It would be just a gap in the ship. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of start from the back, and I'm going to use the grids as best I can here. I think what I want to do is I want to have engines. So I'm going to start, and keep in mind, this is probably not going to look all that symmetrical, but when I end up transferring this to a larger sheet of paper, I will fold the paper, transfer it so that when I open it, I have the full ship, and then I can transfer that to chipboard. So let's just assume for a second that I want to have some engine nacelles here, and maybe one section in the back that, and again, this is just draft. This is not there. I'm not locking myself in. As you can see, it's not symmetrical, but it gives me the rough idea. So these will be the engine parts. And then what I like to do is I like to make angular bits. I'm going to just divide this in half, okay, just so I can work on one half. And I'm trying to think here. What I want to do is I want the back half to sort of look like, I want it to have a lot of, I'm just sketching things out here just for the heck of it. You know, some sort of angular, lot of angles. Okay, it's going to be a lot of trouble to make that in chipboard and stuff, because, you know, each of these pieces will probably have to be cut and fitted one at a time, but it will make for a much more realistic ship than, say, an engine and then one angle out and then straight. That is boring. This is not. Plus, I'm going to be building this ship in 3 dimensions. It's going to be built outward, upward, and below. So I have to remember that every time I add an angle in here, I may be adding, for example, like panels that have to be cut and glued at an angle. So it's going to get a little crazy, but so far I'm liking what I saw here. So I'm going to come out, go down. I'm going to go in a little stronger, come down, go out, not as far, down, do a double step there, and I think I'm going to stop here for the main body. That gives me a good bit of room for the front part of the ship. So if I were to transfer this over, let's see if I can do it. It's going to be a little tricky. Ooh, I got a little close here. Okay, it goes down to about here, comes over, goes down to about there, goes out a little bit, and then down a little bit, in, straight, down. So you can kind of start seeing, what I'm envisioning for this ship. Now, before I get too far, I want to remember that I want these negative spaces in here. So I'm going to assume that a lot, like half, this part of the ship over here, I'm going to sort of shade it a little bit. I hope you can see this. I'm going to assume that this shaded part over here is sort of dedicated to the engines, right? And so what I want to do is I want to visually define the engines as a separate component. And what that means is I want to put these negative spaces, gaps, in here to visually show that these have some sort of different function than the central part. So what I'm thinking here is, again, going with the angular stuff, I'm thinking about putting something in, and it may have more of a curve to it than what I'm doing here. Something unusual like that. Okay, let me. And thankfully, I don't have to finalize that just yet, but I actually kind of like that. So let's see. I want to start here. I want to go down. Oop, not as steep. Down, and then in a little bit. Okay, this piece right here is right there. So down, and then that goes toward about there, and then this goes down and over. Not quite symmetrical, but should give you the general idea of what I'm going for. Yeah, ooh, that's bad. I don't know how I did that. Doesn't look all that symmetrical, but no, you know what? It's not. This goes this way, so yeah, it should have been a little more steep. That's okay. All right, so gaps like that, and then the rest of the body will have raised sections, and I'm just sketching this in here. It'll have things that come off of the main hull, and these will be for looks. And I'm really messing up here, but you get the idea. I'm going for protuberances, is that the right word? Things that will come off of the main deck. Now, if you were looking at this in profile, what I want the bigger cockpit of the ship, and then behind it I want the ship body. But again, this will have things that are visual elements coming off of it, front, sides, back, that will make it more visually pleasing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to now the question is, could I put 2 of these, one there and maybe a smaller one here? Let's see, that goes 1 2 1 2, that goes there. So I'm just thinking out loud here, just another break in the ship, something along those lines. And yeah, that would work. And then what that would do is it would help me visualize pulling the ship together, finishing it off. So I want some unusual I don't want any 90-degree angles. If you'll notice, I've hardly got any 90-degree angles. Everything is obtuse or acute angles. So there we go. And then, like I said, by doing the body, that buys me some breathing room on what I want to do for, say the front of the ship, which I haven't really gotten that far yet. But I'm pretty happy with this. And in my mind, that's sort of what I was thinking. It's a wider ship with some holes in it to separate the engine areas from the crew areas, and then I'll work on the crew sections. Now, if you followed along with some of my previous creations, when I take something two-dimensional and I make it three-dimensional, what I do is I typically start with a basic shape that is the skeleton of what I'm designing. So in this case, what I need, and this is a rough sketch, what I want to do is on chipboard, I want to create this shape, sort of I'm just sketching it out here. I want to, and I'm just doing it real fast here. Okay, so I want some shape. It's going to be cut out of chipboard. All right, this is going to be flat. But if you turn it on its side, it's going to probably have a 1/4 inch thickness and a band or a side going all the way around. So what I need to do is I need to cut out two of the most basic shape of this thing. Like if you were looking at it above in a photo and took away all the 3D elements, what is the profile of the body of the ship? Because that profile for me is going to define what I build off of. And the profile is pretty easy to spot. Now I'm not going to do the engines. I may do those as a 3D element, 3D printed element. But cutting out the engines, you can see that I have a definitive shape for the ship. I need to transfer that to a larger sheet of paper, or what I could do is I could grid 2 sheets of chipboard, glue them together or attach them, and then transfer this, which I think that's what I'm going to do. It'll save a step, and really transferring this to, say, printer paper, and then cutting that out, and then transferring it over to here. That's an extra step that I really don't think I'm going to need. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to have a slight transition here. I'm going to get 2 sheets of chipboard, put them together, and grid them so that I can start tracing out this outline. Okay, I have one piece of gridded chipboard here. What I'm going to do is cut this in half because I'm only going to sketch out 1/2 of the ship. With the other half, I can glue it on or connect it so that I get this front part of the ship right here. I'm only going to do half, and then I'm going to cut that out, and that is going to be my template. I'm not actually going to use that piece. Instead, I'm going to use that template to cut 2 more pieces that will be the 2 halves that come together to make this a symmetrical ship. Why am I not going to use the template? Because typically when you trace around a template, it adds a little bit of thickness. Even if you were to cut around the template, there's going to be a slight difference in the 2 pieces. And you also risk cutting your template. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half, glue it together, and make my template right here in front of you. And by the way, your grid does not have to be perfect 1-inch squares. Remember, any mistake that you make, even if the grid isn't perfect, if you make a mistake, since you're making 2 copies of it and you're going to flip one over and glue them together, any measurement on one side is going to be transferred to the other side. So there will be symmetry, and it will hide any small errors. I drew this grid pretty accurately, but I can look on it and occasionally I can see where maybe I didn't connect a line exactly. Doesn't matter. I'm basically using this to make my template. Now what I need to do is I need to glue these 2 halves together so that I can start drawing the overall size here. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the chipboard over, and I'm just going to glue another piece of chipboard here to hold these two halves together. And that it won't matter, because when I trace around it, I'll have this glued connector piece facing up, so it won't matter. So let me get the hot glue gun fired up, and we'll come back and get this glued together. Push down really hard and get that glue smushed. All right. Now, yeah, there we go. And again, the grid, it matches up pretty good. This piece is just a hair's thickness wider over here. But again, I'm not cutting all the way to the edge. So what I want to do now is I want to get my drawing back out here, and I want to try and recreate this on this. Now, I got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 is where it cuts off. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right, so I could technically I'm going to cut this piece off so it's a little easier to work with. There we go. All right, now I have a piece that can hopefully fit into the camera. There we go. I'll just pull the camera up so you can see a little better. All right, so I am going to transfer that to this. All right, so let's start. And actually, I could have cut it 1 inch shorter because I got the engines not starting at the back piece, which is fine. So remember, I'm not doing the engines as part of this. So these two pieces will not be transferred here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little bit of wiggle room here. This is half. So remember, this edge right here going down through the half of the ship, this is where I'm starting here. So I'm going to make some dots initially, and then I'll connect them with straight lines. I'm just sort of following the curve here. All right, so it goes all the way over here, up to here, over, then up again, and maybe just extend it. Well, no, that's fine. All right, did I go too far? Maybe not. Maybe I did. Let's see. That's there. Yeah, that's okay. I got it. All right, this farther edge right here is actually going to go up against this, which is fine. I can deal with that. So I want to come down, down, and then down. So boom, and then down 3, 1, 2, 3. In quite a bit. Okay, let's go to here. And I may change this after I get it. These are just sort of just so I can get the initial idea. So it goes down to there, and then down almost 3 inches, and then here, and then down almost 3, in a little bit, down, in, down, and then over, and then up, and then over. All right. So I have a bunch of dots. So let's see what it looks like when I start connecting these. And again, I don't have to be exact. I'm just drawing from, they don't even have to be 90 degrees. As a matter of fact, I don't want them to all be 90 degrees. I want most of the angles on this ship to not even be close to 90 degrees. All right. So where I find 90 degrees, I'm actually altering it so it's not 90. there are maybe 1 or 2 90 degrees on this entire ship. Okay, go back up here. All right, let me pull the camera up just a little higher here so you can see this all. Oops, right there. All right, can you see it? Can you actually see sort of what the ship looks like? Now, it's not exact to here because I took some liberties as I was drawing it, but lots of cool looking angles and things like that. Now, just imagine this flipped over and making a mirror image. All right, so probably what I'm going to do here is go ahead and cut this out, and I can do this freehand. I don't have to do this with a blade or with a ruler because, again, I'm going to be making 2 copies of this, so they will be symmetrical if I use this as the template. So even if the template isn't cut perfect, the 2 halves will match. Keep your scraps. They will come in handy later, especially those that have a grid on them. All right, I got to get this cut. This is the tricky one because there is a connector piece underneath it. It is twice the thickness of chipboard. Since I've got 2 of them, it's just a little harder to cut away. There we go. All right. That is 1/2 of the ship. Other half. See? Flip, flip. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is transfer this to a single piece of chipboard by drawing a line and then flipping it from half to half. But before I do that, I need to do the negative space. So let me do that real quick. So the negative space, I could start here. And again, I'm not wanting to be, I don't want 45 and 90 degree angles. Maybe a few straight edges. All right, that will come down to here, to here. No, wait a minute, I don't want to go too far. Okay, and then over to here, up to here, up to there. All right, let me draw those lines. Let's see what it looks like. I like playing connect the dots here. Oops, that's wrong. I connected 2 wrong dots. All right. May not be big enough. I may need to enlarge it. Let's see what it looks like when I color it in. All right, there we go. A negative space. Interesting. I like the look of that. That doesn't look too bad. Should it be bigger? No, because I'm going to put another one down here. That should be enough. Make it too big. Yeah, we won't make it too big. All right, and so I need one more down here. And I'm going to do this one starting right here. It will go to here, down, over, over like that. So let's, again, nothing straight angles. It's all odd angles that will hopefully make this ship look a little more alien. There we go. You know what? That should be bigger. It really should be just a little bit bigger. What I can do is I'm going to come down a little bit. That's better right there. All right. Okay, so let's cut those out. And again, going to do this just by eyeball. They don't need to be exact. There we go. That is one half, actually, nose back. That is one half of the ship, and then it'll flip over and make the second half. So let's do that next. All right, to transfer this over, I'm going to need to create a little bit longer piece of chipboard. So I'm going to do again, I'm just going to take two pieces and get them glued together just so I can more easily flip this over. I could cut this off and do it as a separate part, but I think it's going to be better if I do it all as one. I could try to do it like so. Actually, if I pull it down, nah. I was going to say I could try to glue it in here just to hold them together, and I could do that. Let's do that. So I'm actually going to use this negative space as the way to glue these together. So again, just going to glue that down in there. I need to glue it a little shorter. This is just a small piece to hold it together. Let's make sure that's going to fit down in there. Yeah, and I don't want it to interfere, so I'm going to cut it a little bit thinner, a little bit shorter. Just a very small piece. See that? Okay. And I'm going to glue it down in there like that. Okay. Then, assuming I've got this lined up, which I believe I do, I can trace here. Okay. I'm going to flip this over and line it up like so. And put another piece right there. Again, just little things like this. I mean, this isn't any kind of mechanic that you need to learn or trick or tip. It's just something I just thought of that would make it easier to cut through and will work with the negative space here. All right, so these two pieces are pretty much glued together. Yeah, there we go. All right, so now what I can do is I'm going to turn this way, get rid of this, and I am going to start the trace. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I am going to line up. See this line right here, which is the glue line? This is the line where the two pieces are glued together. I'm going to line that up with this and square it. And I'm going to retrace my line here. Okay, this is just the center point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay very close to the edge. I'm trying to keep the pen sort of straight up so I get the same matching drawing on this side. Oh, I didn't cut that. Darn it. I'll have to trim that when the time comes. All right. All right. So far so good. The lines are transferring. I can see the ink There we go. I'm going to flip it and line it up with the line. Yep, and on the line, I want it sort of off the line. Actually, I'm going to have to scoot it just a hair over because this edge is not flush, but that's okay because whatever I don't know the scientific term or mathematical term, but since I'm stealing some from this thing, since it's symmetrical, I'll just have to find the center point again anyway. It doesn't matter. As long as I maintain the symmetry of the trace, which I can do here. Here we go. And again, as I did in the Thunderhawk, there are going to be elements that are not 100% symmetrical, but when you're dealing with chipboard and foam, which is what this ship is being made out of, there's going to be a lot of forgiveness that the human eye can't pick up, for example. So I'm okay with a little bit of imperfection. I mean, you don't want to get lazy and not keep the symmetry, but a little deviation from the symmetry is not going to be noticeable to the human eye. At least I don't believe it will. There we go. Now, keep your template. You may want to make a second ship, third ship, I don't know. Or you can use it for some other purposes it's already gridded, so I could cut it up and use it there. All right, so there we go. There is one part of the ship. Now, I need to do this again. So this part I'm going to time-lapse for you. Now, before I cut out the two halves, here's one, here's two. What I want to do is I want to make sure I can match them up. So I'm just going to, I'm going to draw symbols like so. Okay, that'll help me match up which side goes with which, and I'll do something unique on this one. I'll just do a circle and a circle and a single mark like that, okay, just to help me line them up because I'm going to have to cut these apart. All right, now I'm going to cut these apart by hand, and then I'm going to put them together and look to make sure that they are flush on all sides, and I'll make corrections where I need to. Okay, I have the two cores of my ship, top, bottom, or vice versa, and I need these to be about a 1/2 inch thick between them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 1/2 inch foam, and I'm going to cut a bunch of, for lack of a better word, I'll just call them spacers, and they will allow me to, I'm going to glue them in various areas, and then I will glue this on top after I square it up. Now the trick here is you want to use foam that's the consistent thickness, so I'm using it all from one piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut some pieces, and I want them to roughly be the same size, not for any particular reason, just they'll be easy to glue on. See what I'm doing there? So let me cut another one for over there and for the center. All right. So one here, one there, and maybe one for the tail. All right. And what I thought initially was gluing a 1/2 inch piece of foam to this, then cutting it out and then gluing this onto the back side. So it would have a foam core all the way around. But I really don't want to do that. I want to have chipboard as the, I guess, what do you call it? The the side or the width, thickness of it running all the way around. Now that's going to be tricky. It's going to be cutting individual pieces to length to go all the way around, but I think it lends a more, there will be areas that are visible, I think, when the ship is done. I could be wrong, but I don't want foam visible. Also, I plan on spray painting this, and foam does not do well with spray paint. So to do this, I think to do this right, I don't want, when you use hot glue to put foam down, first off, it can melt the foam, which is not a real big deal if you do it fast and then stick it on. But what happens is hot glue actually gives you a little bit of thickness between the two surfaces that you're gluing. It's not compressible as much as, say, white glue. It just doesn't bond as well. And what that will cause is it can cause uneven pieces of this to be maybe at an angle. They won't be flat. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to Aleene's tacky glue. I just find it gives a better, it does take time to dry. So just put a good bead of glue down. You want good, you don't want these two halves coming apart at all. So don't go skimpy on the glue. And press it down nice and good. Get that glue spread out. And then when this dries, I will square it up with the top piece, or whatever the other piece, and get it glued onto these. Now, when this glue is done, and I'm sure these things won't be moving, I will take this piece. The line is in the middle because this wants to fold that way, and so rather than have the tape exposed, I am going to place this down here and glue it like that. And this will form the core of the ship that I am going to build up the surface. So there you go. That is part one of a new series where I'm going to be creating another spaceship out of chipboard and foam. I started, as you saw, with if I can find it here, with just a brief sketch. Gridded it based on the size of a piece of chipboard, which is 12 by 12. I knew it was going to take two pieces. Sketched it out, got roughly what I want, and then I transferred that over to chipboard like that. Made a template. Okay, got the template to make the two halves. I've attached them with blue painter's tape, and then of course I've got one half gluing down to some foam pieces here, and when that glue is a little more dry, I will attach this. Now in the next video, I will probably start on wrapping the ship's side, the core. I'm going to call this the core of the ship, okay? Everything is going to build off of this. So I need to get this really, really solid, and that means getting the piece that goes all the way around, which will be chipboard. And then once that's done, I can start building this thing up, and it'll start looking like a spaceship. Thank you for joining me again. I know this video probably is going to go a little long, but that's only because I really don't intend to edit out much. I hope you'll join me. I probably will be doing new videos on this weekly until this thing is done. I'm open to suggestions for the next one. Somebody suggested a mech, like a battle mech. Thinking about it. But I want to get this spaceship out of my head and physical, get it made, and then I'll be able to address some other projects in the future. As always, thank you for being a patron of this channel, the Tabletop Engineer. I really appreciate your support. My goal is to just every day put out some new stuff for you, for gaming, for GMs, for players, for war gamers, what have you. It's going to be a bit random, but I'm always open to suggestions. So until the next video in this series, this is DM Jim, and I'll see you next time where we'll pick up working on the spaceship. Take care.